The start order is 17423985.
The Extra Lap RC Podcast.
Yes, this is the Extra Lap RC Podcast. My name's Aidan Burke, and as always, I'm joined by my good friend Joey Cockle. How you doing, Joey?
Hello, I'm alright, how are you?
I'm good. How's climbing the corporate ladder going for you?
Stressful, and it feels like I'm back at school.
Well, that's what life's like now, mate. And of course, we're joined by our good friend Martin Owen. How you doing, Martin?
Very well, thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm great. Have we got any advice for Joey on climbing the corporate ladder?
Not that I'm going to admit. No, I'm going to say on here. Just stop getting a sore throat, Joey.
must be easy to climb the corporate ladder, Joey, if you work in forklift trucks.
God, that's a bad joke coming.
Sorry. Okay. Also, before we start, it's very important to say happy birthday to Ethan Owen. You know, clearly the most talented of the Owen family.
Exactly. Yeah. By far.
I hope he enjoy his sushi meal and his new Xbox controller.
Oh, he is.
Unless that's a surprise and I've spoilt it for him. I know he's a big fan.
No, yeah.
Martin, who are we going to speak to today?
Tonight we got one of the elder statesmen of RC in this country. We have Tony Avoca.
Avoca.
Vodka.
You always miss the D out.
I do it on purpose.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Tony.
Anyway, here's Tony.
Hi, Tony. Tony?
Good evening, all.
Good evening.
How are you doing, mate?
I'm laughing. How is everyone?
I'm good.
Yeah, we're all good.
Hi, Joe.
Hello.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, not bad, mate, not bad.
Good. How's Dad and all that?
Dad is good. Brother is good. Why? Well, Daniel's kids are good, and my partner's good. You?
Fantastic. Yeah, good, mate. Yeah.
Good.
Joey, does
mate.
John just like sit on the couch and, you know, anytime anyone bumps into someone, does he just go 10-second penalty, stop and go?
I don't know. I don't live with him. I don't sit and watch TV with him, so I'm not sure. He might do. I'm sure when he watches like the Formula One at the weekends, he's sitting there going, I don't know.
You know, obviously we'll talk to Tony in a bit, but maybe John's missing giving penalties out.
He might do. I to be honest, I don't think he's missing it at all.
I'd like to hear his judgment on the Formula One.
Oh yeah, sorry. Me and Joey aren't big Formula One fans. Tony.
He probably didn't see it.
John Cocker joke.
That's me getting a penalty in the next match.
Let's hope he didn't hear that.
He'll get told it, I'm sure.
That's a good idea for a new podcast. We could have John Cockle's view of Formula One.
The views on.
Yeah.
It doesn't just. I don't suppose it just has to be motorsport related. I'm sure he could do his like football punditry or
politics.
Whether it was a penalty or not.
I'd like to hear if he felt he had the inside line or not. That's what I want to know.
Yeah, I can ask him. And I will let everyone know my findings next week.
Okay.
Yeah,
perfect.
I'd be interested in that. In his opinion on that collision, let's say.
But again, he probably didn't watch it. He's probably too busy.
I think the whole world has watched it.
No, I think honestly, Tony, if you split this current podcast down the middle, two people, I'm guessing you and Martin enjoy Formula One, and me and Joey don't. So
that just can't be possible.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
It sounds really weird, but I detest watching cars go round and round a track.
Yeah, me too, mate.
TV.
Me too. Yeah.
But But you make them go round and round the track. I don't
Yeah,
understand.
there's a difference. I'm physically doing that, whereas when you watch like Formula One or BTTCC or whatever it's called, I'm not doing that. It's not exciting.
Do you not learn from it?
Well, what was I going to learn from the Verstappen and Hamilton situation?
Well, depends what perspective you feel you're going to judge it on. Should you put your car there? Yes or no?
I don't know.
Joey's of the world. If there's a gap, he's going to go for it.
Oh,
And
yeah, pretty much. And
Trust
if you're
me,
in
I
my
know.
way, so be it.
There's a saying about that, isn't it? If you stop going for the gap, you're not a racer anymore.
Exactly.
I never go for the gap. Never.
You always have to go for the gap.
No, I never.
Absolutely. Put your car there. It's exactly what you should be doing.
Also, Joey Joey needs to wait for a really big gap, especially at nationals, because he knows if he touches the other car, his dad, John Cockhill, for everybody anyone else who doesn't really know, John Cockhill, Joey's dad, IFMAR World Ref, all those things. We know John Cockhill he said this on a podcast many years ago. I would penalise Joey before the other fella.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's why he doesn't like reffing him, though, isn't it? That's why he doesn't like reffing those races. He openly doesn't want to, be the referee for those races. So.
Yeah, we have that up in the northwest. Because Eddie Holt, Josh and Luke's granddad, I'm going to say he's the northwest head ref. But when we used to in those good old days, if you remember, we used to have regionals.
Oh yeah, some decades ago. Yeah,
some decades ago. When Tommy Hall was about 3.5 foot shorter. Eddie would always get somebody else up to ref the A final, and he would say, "So me, I remember like Damien Whittle, Lee Fraser, someone like that would come up and he goes, well, you watch the front three and he'll watch the rest because he doesn't like to be involved in decisions with his lads."
Yeah.
Even though they don't make those calls, it's just some people, some people, I'm sure we'll end this podcast talking about, what some people are like. No one on this podcast though, but for anybody else who's listening, so you are Tony, I nearly said evoker like Martin does. Let's not do that again.
He's
Tony
always said that.
Have. I have.
Why?
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just always have.
He's always called me. Mind you, I've been called a lot worse. So Ed Bonker. Been called Ed Bonker before. I can't tell you what I got called when I went abroad once, because they do it upside down abroad, don't they? They say your surname first, then your first name. And I couldn't possibly repeat it. We'll have to come off air for a while, Dan. I can tell you.
It's fine. I always say no one listens. So, Tony, F1 driver, on your ability, the person who looks after and sort of distributes Serpent off-road in this country, rude bits, all those things. Big into your nationals, into your regionals, on 10th and sort of 8th off-road. What's this year been like when it's all been a bit mixed?
Oh, man. Do you know what? After a very, very long time of racing all over the place, and rightly, like you just said, I love my regionals, nationals, anything off-road. That's me. It's crazy though. You seem to lose momentum, and in a strange way, the habit of life of radio controlled car racing. And I think I don't know how true this is going to be. I don't know how you guys would agree or not agree, but I think that the people that haven't gone racing, didn't get out and about, and they've lost that, what I call momentum of radio controlled car racing. I think I'm saddened to say I think that we possibly lost a few of them.
Right.
I'm not sure that they want to come back anytime soon because they've discovered other things, because of circumstances, and the way that the world is transpired with this pandemic that we I was going to say went through, but we're still going through it, aren't we? Let's be realistic. It's here to stay. It isn't going to go anywhere, and anybody that thinks it's going to go, I think they're very mistaken. I think it's going to be another Lou type scenario where people are going to have to be jabbed up and whatever. I don't even want to talk about that, but it is what it is, and everybody's had to adapt, and some people haven't. I know quite a few people that haven't come back racing since the lockdown, which is a massive shame. Things are very different at track now. We all know that, even after restrictions have been lifted, there's still people talking at, home clubs, regional clubs. I hear it up and down the country. Obviously I talk to a lot of people up and down the country, and people are still talking, should we wear masks? Should we have dividers? Should we do this? Should we do that? Because radio controlled car racing is an array of people, from youngsters to older people like myself, and from all walks of life. Some of them could be, I don't know, bank managers to builders to wherever. It's open to everybody, and there's so many opinions over it, and it's very difficult, and yeah. It's very difficult, and it's very different to what it used to be, before, I don't know, 2019.
So do you think we need another sort of more normal year next year to bring some of these people back?
Excuse me. I'll tell you what I like to mention at this stage. And I'm gonna take sides on something, and I'm gonna talk about the BRCA, and is leading on to what your question is about. I think that there's been a lot of criticism of the 10th section, where they didn't do their regionals and nationals. But people out there have to understand it's not the group of people on the committee that actually make the decision. It's the club's reflection on situations in their regions, and they put forward to their representative, which is the guy that stands on the committee for that region. And it was a collective decision by people up and down the country that they felt they weren't ready. Now, the 8th section of the off-road felt they were ready, and they have gone ahead, and they are racing. Now, there's been a lot of criticism of this collective group of people that I used to be part of, as you know, and I just think it's wrong to criticize people for looking out for you guys, because ultimately the safety is better than the valor sometimes, and I think that that's what they've done, and I'm all for what they've done, even if we have lost a year of radio control competitive national racing. So that's my opinion on that matter. And I've also got another little opinion, because like people like me, in the sense of the adult community, the over 16s, I should say, isn't going to make any difference to us, right? What are you going to do? You're going to criticize, maybe Lee or Neil for not having an extra title to the titles that they've got. I don't think that's ever going to make any difference to anything they're doing, or their sponsors, or their supporters, or their followers, or anything like that. I don't think that's going to make any difference. The difference, though, is to the person that is suddenly not a junior anymore. And of course, he's missing the opportunity to become multiple junior champion, or a junior champion for the first time, or to achieve that top 10 for the first time, which of course, you can never give them back, so I've got an opinion, and this is just a personal opinion. I don't see why those people are not allowed to race next year, because even if they're over the age, they're still all the same juniors. And the up and coming ones to join that, well, let's have more the merrier anyway. But it's not as if you're bringing an older guy going back into it. It's just the same juniors. Just extend it for another year. I think that's something that we should look at.
Like next year's juniors can all be, just off the top of my head, 2 years older than they could be.
Correct.
And then next year's the juniors after that, 2023,
back
could
into
be all
order.
be what could be 1 year older, and then
No. You don't need to do the 1 year older. It's the ones that we're going to do the year that we missed are allowed to do the following year. So after that, you just fall back into the age groups. So those guys that suddenly are not under 16 anymore, because they're now under 17, but they're still allowed to compete because you're just giving them the opportunity. In fact, you could argue you're giving them an opportunity against more up and coming drivers who should theoretically be more difficult, that's the only thing that I've got, because I'm all for the juniors. The juniors is the future of this sport. Anybody thinks that Tony Avdoka is going to be the future of the sport, it needs to look in the mirror a little bit, It's all about the juniors. You have to support junior racing up and down the country. If you're not doing
I
that,
think that's I think it's a really good idea. What about, well, not be funny, we've got like a off 1/10 off-road committee member stood there. Mark, what do you think?
Yeah, I think he's right. They have missed out, and I think it would not hurt. And Tony's right. The juniors at that, getting youngsters into this hobby has been discussed 100 million times everywhere, podcasts, racetracks, and we still haven't quite got it right.
Yeah, because it would be fine for, we're talking about, I suppose, Tommy and Jamie, Josh and Luke, Ben Smith, and they're kept in, and then I'm just trying to give slightly young, or Tyler, and then other kids a bit younger, Ethan Gill, is it Phipps in the Midwest, those kind of guys. Yeah, it would be the biggest junior event. I like that. Send that in an email.
You've highlighted, Aidan, what you've done there is you've highlighted obviously some of the very up and coming drivers in the junior range, let's say. But all I'm saying is that if all of those guys, and a lot more up and down the country, of course, that may not be quite at the sharp end, let's say, you still got to give them the opportunity, because competition is what breeds the success. And if you succeed a little bit, it's what gives you the flavor that you want to continue doing it, because you want more. And especially when you're young. When you're older, hey, you've done it once, you've done it twice, you've done it 5 times, and you're not thinking of that. But when you're young, that's what gives you the urge to carry on. And I think that, especially with the pandemic era of not being able to go racing as much, I think that this is more important than ever before. But listen, everybody has opinions, right? And I'm not necessarily saying I'm right. I just can't find a lot wrong with what I'm saying. So, and I always will ask the question, why wouldn't you do it? Give me a good reason why you wouldn't do it. You know, and I can't really think of one, because so what if they're 17? Actually, factually, they haven't raced together as a junior sub under 16 championship. And bear in mind, you've got the same for under 13s as well. They haven't raced together because they haven't been given the opportunity, because we were in lockdown. So what if they're 17? They still want to race together. They all want to beat each other. They all want that title. And like I said, theoretically, there should be even more juniors. It should be an even bigger event, you know. I just think that out of everything, the BRTA possibly, and I use the word possibly, you know, very carefully, possibly should have thought about continuing that, because the juniors at that time of the pandemic didn't have issues with the pandemic. At that stage, if everybody recalls, it was the older generation that was suffering, and then it was, you know, over certain ages, and possibly they could have made that happen. But it didn't, because they decided all national events to you know, take a pause. But this particular event, you know, my heart's always been with juniors, and I think that, you know, it should be considered. In fact, I'll tell you something that happened, and anybody that's willing, they can have a look at the calendar, right? And I've got beef with this, right? And I'm going to mention it, right?
Good.
I booked in to 4 out of the 5 8th Rallycross Nationals, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now you only need to do 4 if you're good enough to win the competition, right? So it's 4 out of 5, right? So I did the minimum requirement to do, you know, to see where I'm going to end up, right? And the reason I booked in into 4 out of 5 is because on one of them it clashed with Hertz juniors, and I wanted to be there for all my juniors to support them driving the brands that I, you know, obviously promote, right? And because it clashed, I didn't book in for that. Now, bearing in mind, I'm an adult. I think I've been there and done that. I could have booked 5 out of 5 and just not turned up, right? So just everybody needs to remember that I could have done that, and I'm aware I could have done that, right? I checked the rules in the rule book, right? There is no rule that says that you will be given preference one way or the other, so long as you're doing the series, right? I didn't get into nationals because of it. How about that?
Yeah. So did you not get in?
I didn't get in, no, because I elected to do 4 out of 5, and there were other people that wanted to do 5 out of 5.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to how it goes in 10 scale, though, to be fair.
No, but in 10 scale, there's a rule. There is no rule in 8th scale. No rule of this whatsoever. You can look it up until your heart's content.
Yeah, he's right. Because obviously, in the 10th scale, we have gradings, and then it's
correct
by how many you enter.
Correct.
Where the 8th scale, because they have no national grading system.
Yep.
Well, nothing else does it? That 10th scale grading system, we're the only people that have it.
And furthermore to this conversation, right? They then take the first come first serve from the moment that booking in opens up, right? I can promise you, I pressed the button and paid, or attempted to pay it. I think I paid, and everything else within 3 minutes of it opening up, because I read the rules, I knew where I stood, never got in.
Wow.
Yeah,
it doesn't take 8 scale nationals that long to fill up at all.
Yeah, but it was. But this is the thing, Joe. It wasn't full. I was just put down behind the reserve of everybody, because everybody that booked in 5 out of 5, they could have booked in 5 out of 5 3 days later. They still took precedence in front of me because I only booked in. I was honest enough to book the 4 out of 5 rather than just booking in 5 out of 5 and then just cancelling later.
Yeah, I think Muzz has said something about that about Zoom. So, you know, look, quite a few people, or not to say quite a few people, a small handful of people booked into all of them,
Yeah,
and haven't turned up to 2 of them.
yeah, it happens all the time, and it's wrong. I mean, as everybody knows, I'm doing an event the following week. Not this weekend, next weekend. Now, I did it very, very simply. That, you know, you book in, you don't pay any money whatsoever, and then 2 weeks before the event, you know, you've shown your interest by booking in. You now pay. Now, if you pay, you're booked in, your space is secured. If you don't pay, your space is not secured, and it will and has been given to other people. How simple is that? I mean, I don't, because the problem that we all have is that we book so far ahead. The circumstances change. Oh my God, he's had a baby. He wants me to go to a christening. He wants me to go to a barbecue. I don't know. My wife is
Yeah,
ill.
yeah, yeah. I can't go to the last round of Robin Hood into for Zoom because I've got relatives coming over.
Yeah, yeah, but you possibly didn't know that when
Yeah,
you first booked in.
I had
You
no
know?
idea, but there's nothing they can do because the missus says, "Look, they're coming up. That's the day."
And while we talk about this booking in kind of system, what is this about drawing money so far before an event? I just, I really, I mean, God, I mean, there was one situation, I think, that people wanted you to book in for the series. Well, if I booked in for this one, that one, that one, that one, before you know it, you needed like £500, you know? And I'm thinking, okay, well, some people might be in a position they can do that. But my God, an ordinary racer is not. A dad with 2 kids going radio control car racing, which is the bloodline of the sport, can't afford that. You
But
know,
that's why I think Silverstone get it right, because you can only book in for one. They only open the booking for the events as they go.
that's correct, Martin. And do you know what? Right, um, as you all know, I'm very good friends with Steve Brown, chairman of Torch. And I said to Steve, I said, do you know what I don't understand? I said, why don't you do something like, if you're going to book in, you've got to pay, and this is just hypothetical figures, right? £2 non-refundable booking in fee, right? And then you pay your, let's say the fee's £12. You pay your £10 1 or 2 weeks beforehand. Now, you know at the time that it's non-refundable. Do you know what? I would love to sit at a club's computer and go, oh, he's not coming, delete £2, delete £2, delete
Yeah.
£2.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, happy days. But at least you get an interest of who wants to come to the event, and then you get the security of who's coming to the event when you open it up and they've got to pay the rest of their fees. It's a simple. It will stop people just saying, "I'm going to book into all of them," you know, because if they were going to do that to every single event, every single round of competitions, and it would just be too much for them. So they just wouldn't do it, you know. So you will only get the serious ones. I think that there's many avenues that people can take, but we seem to get into this rut of same old, same old, same old, same old, and it just continues. Bearing in mind, I'm in my 40th year of radio control car racing, and I see the same stuff that's been going on for 25 years, and you think to yourself, hello, there wasn't even internet 30 years ago, and now all of a sudden, you know, the whole world is a keyboard warrior and knows everything on Facebook. You know, I mean, come on, guys. You know, it's I don't know. Just sometimes people don't think out the box, and I'm not saying like I keep on repeating. I'm not saying I'm right. But God, if I've got some ideas, surely other people must have some ideas, you know?
Yeah. So is that one of the things that these are the things you've looked at when you've seen what other events and things in those 40 years and thought, well, if I'm going to, do an event with Torch, which is your Dash for Cash, which is coming up not this weekend, next weekend, is that what you wanted to do? I said, well, actually, if this is what I think we should do, let's do it for this event, and then I'll be able to tell people, oh, that worked really well,
Well, it's not only me that be able to tell people,
Mhm.
it'd be the people competing at the event that be able to tell people as well. Because let me tell you what else I hear. Now, again, bearing in mind, I've got drivers all over the country, and I've actually got some drivers abroad as well. And they, a lot of people tell me what happens in their areas, in their scenarios, how they feel, etc., etc. Right? So I'm in a unique position that I'm in a strange way, like a little central hub for a group of people. Now, some people say, and I'm just going to pick this out as a hypothetical, right? But, and this is not
Sorry, boss.
fact.
Yeah.
This is not fact. This is not factual. I'm just trying to give the example, right? Oh, what's on this weekend? Telford's on, right? Should we go to Telford, lads? So you talk to your local friends, whoever you normally go radio control car racing with. Go to Telford. If you excuse my language, everyone, we're going to get our ass handed to us. We've never been there before, right? This is a major problem in radio control car racing. With permanent tracks around the country, people are very reluctant I'm not talking about the elite now. I'm, just a step down and beyond are
Talking about
very
my
reluctant.
level, Tony. Is that what you're talking about? Just one step below elite, Aiden. That's what you're talking about, isn't it?
Hey, I didn't want to say that publicly,
Thanks. Cheers, boss.
What can I
I know,
say?
we know what you're talking about.
But you classed me as an F1 driver. I was very fortunate to get that at my age. So I'm going to go to Southport and expect to compete against the locals that have done, I don't know how many hundreds, if not thousands, of laps around there. I'm never going to compete with them, right? So I think it becomes a problem. I think that when you've got 6 nationals, 4 to count, right, as a series, so I've got to go to Stotfold, right? That I haven't happened to been there because of let's say the pandemic. Let's blame the pandemic for something. So I got 2 3-minute runs, and I've got to compete with all the locals on a track that really I don't know that well. And I've got to do the same for Southport, for Telford, for Kidderminster, for Torch, wherever you're coming from, obviously you've got different tracks. To me, it isn't fair. It can't be fair. Now, a lot of people will say, well, you try and do well at your local tracks and you sacrifice. No, it's either a national series or it's a regional series. So when you talk about the event that I'm running, it's a 2-day event, right? You will get a 3-hour open practice session. And in that 3-hour, you will be able to do, I mean, I'm disclosing stuff that I haven't even told people, but that's no problem because it's going to be disclosed anyway. So in that 3-hour on a Saturday morning, you're going to get an open practice session that you can take at any time in that 3 hours, and you're only allowed 4 runs. The reason that you're allowed 4 runs because there's only a certain amount of people you can get on the rostrum as a group of 10 people for 5 minutes. So otherwise, you're going to get someone up there for 25 minutes on a lipo. That wouldn't be right. So you do sessions, 5-minute sessions, 10 off, 10 on, 10 off, 10 on, and you continue in that vein until everybody's had 4 runs. So you've already got 4 runs that you can adjust your car, you can tune your car, you can stop, give it to your mechanic. The mechanic can do something, put it back on. There's a lots of tuning options in 4 runs. Then you get 2 controlled practice sessions
Yeah.
in the heats that you've been allocated. I mean, obviously there's a group of very experienced people, you know, running the event, and we all know how good individuals are. So we vigorously will try and put them in the correct heat. But nevertheless, it's the fastest 3 consecutive laps out of any of those 2 controlled practice sessions will seed you. Now, why does it seed you? I think it seeds you for lots of reasons, and this is just my personal opinion, so this is why I want to run the event this way, right?
Yeah.
I think that if you're the fastest guy 3 consecutive genuine laps, that obviously everything gets checked, there's not going to be any random laps you just discard, obviously. I think that in a stranger way, it's right that you hold that number 1 for qualifying, you know. I think there's a certain not need, I don't know what the word is, you know. I was the fastest, I got number 1 on my car, you know, like
Yeah.
wow, you know. And don't misunderstand the number 1, because there could be a lot of people be very proud of having number 2, 3, or 4 on their car. Do you know what I'm saying? You know,
Yeah.
and then there will be another group of people. They say, "I made the top 10. I made that top heat." You know, that's another proud moment. And then at a lower level, you know what? I made the top 20, or I made the top 30, or you know, and it grows a theme down the line of ability of radio control car racing. This is just, like I keep saying, this is just my opinion, right? Now, so you now belong in a heat that you can't argue with, because you've had 2 controlled practice. Well, you've had 4 controlled practices to begin with. You've got 2 to get it right, to get really 3 in a row. Now, if you can't get 3 in a row, you can't tell me, oh, I've done the fastest lap and I should be in the.
I'm useless at 3 consecutive laps. I do
Well,
2 quick ones and then fall apart.
well, you need to do 3. This
I
is
know.
this is the rule of the scenario. You know, this is what you're contending with, and then you qualify. Now, qualifying, there's a lot of guys, and I think Martin will agree with me. In fact, Joe will probably agree with me more on this. There's a lot of guys that can be extremely quick in low grip conditions, and there's a lot of guys that can have that wow factor in high grip conditions. Now, over the 2 days, conditions can change, especially in the UK. Now, all right, we're holding an event end of August, hopefully no rain or anything like that. But I say hopefully, you know, because, you know, but it's 2 out of 5, right? So you've got 3 qualifiers on the Saturday. You can have the most abysmal Saturday in radio control car racing, but you can still TQ the meeting come Sunday morning, because you've got 2. So
Wow, okay.
you see what I'm trying to say here? You can have a really bad Saturday because, I don't know, the missus has left you, the roof of the house is collapsed, you had flat tires going to the track, you're not in the mood.
There's some sort of forklift truck emergency.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, is there something I don't know about?
Yeah.
Right. Don't talk about forklift trucks, because I tipped the digger over the other day. Right. So then on the Sunday you can still do the business, right?
Yeah.
And then we have this other scenario where everything has to be fair across the board. I know sometimes, well, not at nationals these days, but at maybe, let's say, just regionals, you get 3 legs for a major final. Now, I don't know if people know the reason why there's 3 legs for a major final, but that's because you eliminate a break, an unforeseen break, or a disaster of some sort, and you're looking truly to find who the fastest guy was of the day. That's why there's 3 legs, right? But I think that a longer final possibly sort of gives you a lot of that back without having 3 legs for somebody that's actually paid the same entry fee as the guy much lower down. So for the
So is that the plan to have longer finals?
yeah, the finals are 7 minutes, right? So all finals are 7 minutes, and if you, let's say, I mean, bear in mind there will be wrecking as well. Let's say the unfortunate, I got tagged on the first corner. Hey, you've got 7 minutes to make that up. Rather than 5 minutes can be difficult. In 7 minutes, if you're fast enough, it's no problem at all. So I think that a 7-minute final becomes a lot more exciting towards the end if it's close, because for all of that time they've been close, and that's why I think there's a beauty, and people like eighth racing because it's a long final, and if it's close at the end, the excitement has built over that period of time, and it can be very, very very fruitful to watch and to listen to and to compete in.
So Martin's going. Martin's booked in, ready to go. We're just waiting
Yes,
for
I'm aware.
we're just waiting
Yeah.
for his announcement picture. I'm not being funny. He did Nathan Stanmore, Keane, the Saunders. We're waiting for Martin Owen. Martin.
Well, we got a bit of a problem with that because as
I know, but
yeah.
so Martin, are you going to be all right with 7-minute final, or should we be watching the live time and waiting for you to drop off a cliff after 5 minutes?
No, I'll be right with 7. I get faster the longer it goes.
Oh,
You see, the thing is the tactics have got to come into this as well. 7 minutes is, bearing in mind, it's nearly times and a half of what you normally race.
yeah.
So that's a lot, And there are some shenanigans going on in the finals, which I am saddened to say to you, I cannot tell you at this moment in time. But let me tell you, the shenanigans and the twists are absolutely amazing.
Oh, brilliant, Tony.
So and before anybody thinks, oh no, they're not going to do a reverse grid. No, we're not. If you're pole, you're pole. That's
Right, okay.
you've qualified. Yeah, you should qualify the best you can, because I don't want anyone thinking, oh yeah, I might as well just hang back and be 9th because I'll be 2nd on the grid. I ain't doing no reverse grids, right?
Okay.
I believe you. I believe you, because a lot of people would think that, but our shenanigans are going to be ace. I promise you that much. How about that?
And it's a dash for cash. So,
Well,
what sort of prize?
listen.
And do you think,
Well, I'll tell you what the prizes are. There are going to be 12 finals. That's where Steve and I decided we're going to close it off at 12 because we feel we have a responsibility to get people away as soon as possible, because some people are coming from a very, very long way away. And we feel that if we can get them away and gone in the, and don't mean that nastily, of course, on their way, and they get home safely, they still got a nice bank holiday with their families and etc. etc. So we don't want them to feel forced that they have to stay overnight, and then travel on a bank holiday, which can be disastrous up and down the country with traffic, as we all know. So
everyone loves an early dart on a Sunday. Everybody.
yes. So we are going to be tight on the on the Saturday, because we're going to do we were going to do 2 qualifiers on the Saturday and 3 on the Sunday, but I think we haven't fully committed to 3 on the Saturday, but I'm pretty sure, well, once I talk to the committee at Torch, that that's what we're going to do. So it's a slightly later finish on the Saturday night, but everybody's there for the weekend. It's not as if there's anybody, so what difference does it make? You finish at 6 or you finish at 7. What difference does it make? It doesn't make any difference at all, in my opinion. But it makes a difference going home earlier, I think. So that's
12 finals. What are the prizes?
Well, the prizes actually equate. Are you ready to this?
Yes.
To a staggering £870.
Wow.
That's how much we're giving away, right? And bearing in mind our entry fee isn't exactly, it's a 2-day race event, and the race fee is 20 quid. So
Brilliant.
it's not exactly asking a lot. I don't think it is anyway. And if you're double classing, it's only £30. So, but that's the entry fee, and that's the prizes. So the winner, whoever that may well be, and a lot of people would think, oh, it's a foregone conclusion. Radio control car race is never a foregone conclusion. I can promise you that. So the prize money winning the A final will be a nice round figure of £100.
Wow.
So, yep. And in every single final, first, second, and third win prize money. And you're talking, let's say, a G final. A winner will be winning £30. Second place, £20. Third place, £10. Now, look, there are people out there, and I understand that they will say, well, there shouldn't be prize money, right? There are people that feel there shouldn't be prize money, right?
I'm not one of those people. I think this seems like a perfectly adequate amount of money that no one's gonna sandbag for 30 quid.
Well, whether they sandbag or not, that's irrelevant, right? The fact is this, right? Let me tell you, if there was prize money at every single event, right, the BRCA would not have only 7,000 members on their books, right? They probably have hundreds of thousands of people on the books. That's just again my opinion. I just, I make comments and you've got to stand by them. I can't think of many sports where you don't win prize money. Now, what should we talk about? Should we talk about motorsport? Should we talk about golf, tennis? Well, what do you want to talk about? Any sport you want to. If we are a sport, and that's what the heads of our sport are claiming we are, well, why aren't we giving prize money away then? Why? Yeah, and if that's the case, there's a different argument. Now, bearing in mind, I'm going to talk about many friends of mine, right? We have pros in our sport, right? So if we've got pros in our sport, they get paid, right? Well, how can an amateur compete against us? That doesn't work, does it? It's either a pro sport or it's an amateur sport. It can't be both. That's again just one of my opinions. I've opened up a can of worms, haven't I?
No, because I know somebody who is I can't remember. He's like a crown green bowler. Okay, really big round here in the other side of Southport Park. There's 12 crown green bowling pitches, and on a big event, the winner of that event takes home 300 quid.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And they're not pros. They're just a very good dry place. They're not professionals. But I'm sure there are professional bowlers. We see them on the telly. But that's what they do. The winner gets 300. The next fella gets 200. Then there's a couple of 50s, a couple of 25s. And he said it brings people. That's why they go.
Yeah.
And there are more crown green bowlers than there are RC drivers.
Because there's money involved.
Ooh.
Yeah, but you know what money brings out? Arseholes.
Well, listen.
We've got them
in
anyway.
RC, there's RCs without the money, but arseholes without. But
I was going to say to you, what you think we haven't got any of them already?
You've got some self-awareness, people. There's 4 pretty big ones that's talking now. We could be some of the worst.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I'm just saying and I don't want to name names because we all know who the pro drivers are, right? But I mean, of course, the pro drivers would argue, and I mean, in a stranger way, you could argue I'm a pro driver because you can say, well, you earn money from the sport, I suppose, you know. But at the end of the day, it's very difficult when it's somebody's job for an amateur to compete against somebody that it's his job. That actually, I don't know, doesn't have to go, I don't know, welding every single day and then just go radio control car racing at the end of the week, you know, because he's just an amateur. And I don't mean that in the sense of amateur, in the sense of he's no good. He's an amateur. In other words, he's not a professional. So a professional, theoretically, the right professionals can go and practice every single day. How are you going to compete with that? If somebody can tell me how you can compete with that, I will stand to be corrected and never make another comment on this subject again. But you can't, because
It could make
you know,
like sort of the semi-pro section, which there's not a lot of, grow, if you know what I mean. If you think you're gonna,
I can't think of many semi pros.
no, there are none because there's no prize money. But if there was
Yeah, well,
prize money,
yep.
then guys might, you know, certain people might be able to not work the Friday, take another day off.
Let me put a slightly different spin on this for you, right? Now, bearing in mind that I'm associated with a manufacturer, right? Now, whether it's Serpent or whether it's, I don't know, Losi Associated, Yokomo, Schumacher, whoever you want to name, all the manufacturers out there, they all have a scenario where sooner or later they may or may not be approached by somebody that wants to drive for them for money. In other words, as a professional driver, right? Now, where does anybody think that this amount of money comes from? The amount of money comes out of the guys that are buying the parts, the goods, the spares. That's where the money comes from. It doesn't just, you know, they don't have an oak tree growing £50 notes, you know, and that's where it comes from. So, if that pro driver doesn't necessarily need to take the money from the manufacturer, but can take it from the race meetings as prize money, hello, radio control car racing could actually be a lot cheaper.
Wow. I thought we were going to talk about like Serpent belts.
It's only a theory. I know we've moved into that, and unfortunately, when you're in my position and you hear so many things from around the world, and I know a lot, if you like. I know what people get paid. I know what people want. And I know all of that, right? And I'm just saying that there's nothing wrong with that, because yes, those guys not only are top guys, not only are a level that some of us dream to be at, you know, and even at the very best that I've ever been, I've never been as good as some of these guys, right? So these guys are deserving of what they get, but the people that organize the race meetings have to think that the manufacturers they can't sustain that kind of money that is being demanded these days, and so therefore people have to start thinking about organizing events with money. If they don't, I can't see the way forwards for it to grow even bigger. Now, people talk about controversial people like I say controversial because people say he's controversial, but people like JQ, you know, when he's had this dream about doing a worldwide series and everything else, and you know what, you need people with those kind of ideas to make it happen, and if manufacturers don't start backing places like that or competitions like that, and I'm not saying JQ's the correct. He would even argue he might not be the correct person to make it happen. But if you haven't got people like that thinking out the box and how is this going to happen on a bigger scale and everything else, and bring in outside sponsors, real car manufacturers, Audi, and I don't know, all these guys that want exposure because they maybe they're going to be on a TV or on a YouTube channel that's going to get a lot of exposure. All these people will pay money, right? People need to start thinking out the box. Now, a group of people go into a BRCA meeting, having their pub lunch and making decisions is all well and good for an amateur sport. But if you want this to grow, you need to do it. Those guys actually have to be employed. This is my opinion, that a group of people have to be employed. You have to have marketing people and everything else to make radio control car racing massive. And I think it can be. That's just, again, my opinion. So
wow.
there you go.
I agree with loads of those things. Looking at the recent RC news, we've had Maxima MX pull out of engines. They provided engines, I think, for Bathier and Spencer Rivkin.
Bearing in mind that Maxima is a lot bigger than just engines, you realise that they're a fuel manufacturer. You're aware of that.
Yeah, but so the engines have got nothing. They probably just liked RC, that kind of thing. But bits that I've heard that they were paying some guys like they might have been the guy's second biggest financial supporter to some racers after the contracts with the manufacturers and things.
Well, I know what some guys are being paid, and obviously I would never disclose that. That's confidential information. But it's a lot of money. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, absolutely right.
And then when you talk about changing,
I was sorry to interrupt you, Adrian. Sorry, mate. I just want people to clear. I wasn't referring to Maxima. I was referring in general.
Oh no, I was
because I don't want people thinking that Maxima drivers are being paid a lot of money or something.
Well, okay, I'm going to say, I know that bits I've heard is the Maxima. If you look at the people who Maxima looked after, they are the biggest names in RC, specifically in the America. And they were the bits we hear, they were big in support and doing of those guys. And then the next bit, when you turn around and said, I'd always like to drop this in that, my office, Cobain and Associates, have stepped up and helped sponsor this RHR Grand Prix that's coming on in the beginning of September with Model Sport and Schumacher. And I'm sitting there going, well, maybe we shouldn't have sponsored it. We should have just thrown all of that money, and it wasn't massive amount of money, guys, don't worry. We should have thrown that on prize money, shouldn't we?
Well, prize money, I think, is an important factor, because at least you can go home to the missus and say, I won a tenner. Hey, listen, I'm just using Dash for Cash as an example of giving quite a lot back and still making some money for the club, although the club doesn't make enough money for all the efforts that they're doing, to be fair, and therefore they rely on people like me asking some of the manufacturers for some prize money, goods that we will do a nice raffle for the day, and all proceeds go to the club. And it brings me on to another situation. I've asked some big companies, and not everybody's been forthcoming with things like that. But little companies, and I'm sure I've got no problem in mentioning people like Brian Preddy, which does an array of screws, send me a box full of goodies, and really, and I'm sure he won't mind me saying so, he's small fry compared to some of the people that I've asked. I mean, he's in business terms, he's a drop in the ocean in RC compared to some of the people that I've asked, the little firms seem to understand it a little bit more. Now, I also understand that the big firms get asked by a horrendous amount of, people. They everybody wants stuff for nothing, right? But this isn't stuff for nothing. This is stuff that a group of people are going to buy some raffle tickets for a club that wants to improve, because
Yeah.
Torch, as you all know, all they do with their money is put it back into racing. They actually have, and I'm sure they don't mind me saying so, they have no funds, because all they do is pump it back into radio control car racing. They're trying to put electric round the track. They're trying to put floodlights so they can race in the evenings. They're trying to, they've just turned over the place to put drainage so they can race in damp conditions. Now, I'm not saying other clubs don't do this. And of course, we all know, we've seen it up and down the country. I mean, I get pictures of some Scottish pastures doing really, really well and setting up some lovely tracks, proper off-road, kind of undulating tracks that, I love racing on, because it isn't just flat out everywhere. It takes a certain skill. We look at Martin and what they did for the Schumacher event, down in Western Supermill, whatever it is. I can't remember can't remember the exact area. Please forgive me.
No, you got it right. No, you got it right.
Yeah, and look what they did. The track looked immaculate. Look at Hertz. Hertz, they and again, I don't mean this with any disrespect when I speak, right? But they were playing in that 10th racing, really, and then suddenly there's a group of people there that have transformed that place to really, it has to be said, a national standard track.
Yeah.
And I wasn't there. I just saw pictures, and bearing in mind I know the track. I've been there. I try to contribute to the club as much as I can. Very little, it has to be said, because they have shops and supporters themselves. But if they ever wanted anything from me or any club, all they've got to do is ask me. They know that, right? But yeah, I looked at the photos, and the first thing that went through my mind is, wow, and why is that? That's because the little people just want to make things better, and I think the bigger people should be thinking in how to be helping more.
Because I've just spent, when I say we've just spent at Southport, and we've got our soon series coming up.
Yeah.
No, someone goes, "What do you spend the money on?" I go, "I've just spent £300 on gutter."
Yeah.
On white gutter for our track markings, and one of our guys, Kev Hodgkinson, you're going to hear me mention him a million times over the next 2 weeks for all the work he's done. I spent all day taking all the old guttering up, put all the new guttering down, zip tying it, ties in the showers that we've had, and people go, "What do you spend your money?" He goes, "Well, I've just had to spend £300 on gutter." Because then it looks nice, and we think if we keep our track looking nice, then people will be nicer and respect it and do all those things.
There's Aidan. There's so many people out there, the hardcore, really nice people that might not be, and possibly, and again, without any disrespect to them, possibly will never be at a really high-end level of radio control car racing, and they put in blood, sweat, and tears at their local track. When I went down to Torch the other day, and everyone knows I'm not of the best health, so I couldn't do anything heavy, right? And I stood there and I was watching these guys, and I was thinking, gee, I used to do this 25 years ago with Hampshire Racing Centre, but my God, I mean, they were digging. They had pickaxes, for God's sake, and we're talking, real hard manual labour, moving AstroTurf that really should have 10 people on it, but there was only 5 pulling it, and all of this kind of stuff. And we all take it for granted. We go to these clubs and we pay our 10 quid entry fee, and we just take it for granted, and I just, if there's I don't know how many people are going to listen to this podcast, but I like to just say thank you to all those guys that contribute. up and down the country to all the clubs, because I think they're unsung heroes, because without them, how do we all go and enjoy the sport that we all love, So
Yeah,
thanks to all of those guys. I appreciate it as a racer. I hope everybody else does as well,
we
So,
do. We do. But we're going to have to wrap this up now
yeah.
without covering any of the things that I've written down on my piece of paper.
Well,
We've
listen,
just
listen. I know we've got to rack it up, but let me tell you something. In a stranger way, we talked about something that is possibly more important than Tony of Doka producing foams, right? So
phones was my number one point, Tony.
I'll take it. If somebody out there, some people out there have maybe a slightly change of tune by what I've said this evening, I would take that rather than just trying to promote foams that when people are going to use them, they're just going to want them anyway. So that's all there is to say about that.
That's yeah. So basically, just forget what we've been talking about and buy some foams.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter who you're sponsored by because no one can see what foams you're using.
Well, they would do by your results, mate.
Oh, it's fine.
Hey,
So,
listen.
so
I'm
definitely don't
sorry.
send
I'm
me any
sorry.
Tony.
I'm
Don't send
sorry.
me
We
any
did.
Tony.
I'm sorry. Oh no. Do you know you was on my list to send you some stuff?
That's all right. Muzz doesn't listen. Just put him in the post. It'll be fine.
I was. But people can copy. It's not a problem. I've got no problem if they want to go and make a new tool and make a special size foam like the Rude Bits foams. It's not a problem.
Okay, brilliant, mate. So that's how we'll probably end it.
Yeah, sure.
We'll
Thanks,
end.
guys. We always talk about stuff that we're not scheduled to talk about.
Yeah, but that's the way it is. Tony, before we let you go, obviously we will continue to talk about foams. But before we let you go, is there anybody else you'd like to thank before we put a wrap on this?
Yes, I tell you what, I normally would announce all my sponsors, as everybody knows, as an individual, but we haven't really talked about my sponsors this evening. I'll tell you who I want to thank. I want to thank, like I just said, everybody that helps with clubs and their infrastructure and their upkeep and their improvements for people to go radio control car racing. That's number one. Number two, I like to thank the people that have said that they're going to send us some prizes for the Dash for Cash, and that's CML and Brian Preddy from
Screws for RC.
Screws for RC. Right, I can always see his logo, but for some reason I think of something else. I don't know why. Right, but those two guys have promised us some prizes, and that is a big thank you. Right, and also I believe RW Racing, Neil, that does all the pinions and whatnot. I believe he's a big supporter of the club, so he will probably contribute too, but even if I said so prematurely. Of course, Rude Bits, and of course, you guys that you bring all these kind of podcasts from all over the world, from different warps of life and different ideas and insane people like myself.
Oh, that's brilliant. And just not a problem. Thank you very much for your help. I was going to say something else, but I'll message you later and we'll sort that out.
Yeah, no problems. Don't forget, you want to go fast. Rude Bits, Serpent, Dash, Aromax, usual kind of stuff.
All the good stuff. All the good stuff. Tony, it's been brilliant. We'll speak to you again soon. Bye,
Love
mate.
you guys. All right. Cheers. All the best.
That was great speaking to Tony. Like I said, we had a big list of things we were going to talk about. We never got round to them, but there were some really interesting points which I think we can all take away and think about and do that. It's really good when you speak to someone who's been so involved in off-road RC in this country for such a long time. I really like this juniors idea.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing, and we kind of touched on it in that 6-hour interview segment we just did, was that we have F gradings, and the problem is when you divert away from the book, as they say, that we have, and all the rules and all the setup, it makes all that complicated. It's not just
I think it might be all right for the juniors though, because I don't think they really matter on F gradings, do they? It'd just be the juniors comp. That's
I suppose it.
But what I understand what Tony's saying. I don't know. Say Ethan Martin's son was under 13 going into 2020, and obviously he's missed a year, and now he's obviously now gone into the under 16. I agree. Yeah, maybe just put everyone who was in that bracket throughout that year back into it, but you've kind of then got the issue, and it's not their fault. And I'm going to use Tommy and Jamie as an example. But you turn up to when I was doing the juniors, there wasn't, until I got into the under 19 section, there was, where I had the likes of Darren Bloomfield, Tony Truman, etc. In the under 16s and under 13 section, we didn't have someone like Tommy Hall, Jamie, Ben Smith, Tyler Little.
So the issue could be we make a more inclusive event and get more people in. Actually, there might be somebody. I'm just trying to go through my list of middle-aged teenagers. I think I said Ethan Gill, Phipps, Bowman, Lyons, who might actually we could take a juniors championship away from them because the Smith or Halls or Holdsworth would be in when actually they'd be out. But I like it as an idea. It's definitely, if you think that's a good idea,
I think the thing that Tony said that maybe wasn't, and I could see the two sides of it was, and the it's already passed, was maybe you could have run something last year just for the juniors because the COVID wasn't affecting them, but their parents still have to come and it was affecting them. So
and then you've still got to have somebody there to run the time, and you've still got somebody.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Gareth's still got to be there. Paul's then got to turn up. You then got to have Keith there because obviously BRCA section chairman, whatever. And yes, I understand you could have had, but then you'd have had like 40 underage kids in a field on their own because their parents couldn't have been there. It would have been a bit bizarre.
Been a bit weird, but yes. I think those are the thoughts, and I think we've said this at the very beginning of this season when we found out there were going to be no nationals. It wasn't the fact that these events couldn't take place; it was to the fact that because our national series is so respected, has been going for such a long period of time, then we'd rather miss a year than change it too much. We've seen with Zoom events, which have been the nationals for this year, that people have not been able to turn up. They've been pinged, they've got COVID, and they've been fined, or other things have happened to them. So it's just going to be a bit of a stretch. But some really good ideas from Tony. If you agreed with any of those ideas from Tony, message Tony, say hello. If you message your regional rep, speak to them, see what goes on, but support everyone. I think that was one of the other good points from Tony. Just that bit of, it's okay for us because we do a podcast, but there's so many, it's okay. That means it's okay for Mendip, and it's okay for Southport, and it's okay for wherever Joey used to race in the 1960s. But we get mentioned a lot. Do you know what I mean? Our lot get mentioned because we talk about that. Whereas there's lots of clubs who don't have that output that our home clubs do. And so maybe they don't get talked about as much, but it's really good to do that. It was really good to speak to Josh Holdsworth last week, the Heart Goat, and it was also really good, but quite weird to listen back to Bloomers, who we'd spoken to the week before, and I still can't find the middle bit where we actually start talking about Austria. So if you listen back, we're chatting about tyres, and then Joey's bringing his, and then he said flipper story, your flip-flop story. Joey, we go from
shoe story when I fell down the hill.
yeah, we go from
Yeah.
kind of talking about control tires for 1/8 nationals into your flip flop story, and we
Sweet.
ignore the 10 minutes in between where we did talk about the Euros. It would be great to speak to somebody who went to some of these old Euros. I think that's what we really looked speaking to. So that was great from that. It would. That's us for us now. You know, Tony has enlightened us with his ideas, whether you agree or disagree. I thought most of them were brilliant. So we don't need to talk about our racing. I've clearly got the Zoom event at Southport. I will be going to bed now and then getting up night bright and early and getting to Southport and getting everything prepped. That's what we're going to do. And then we'll come back next week and hopefully speak to somebody who's been at that event. Does that sound okay, guys?
Perfect.
Is there anything else we'd like to speak about before I thank my sponsors?
Congratulations to Johnny Skidmore, 8th national champion.
Oh my God. Johnny, John, Will, Nanette, I'm so sorry. Both me and Russ Lee are sorry. We just completely forgot. We already had guests booked in. We should have really had Johnny Skidmore on this week. All the Skidmores, we need to sort that out. Did he get his cup, or do you have to wait for the next round?
I think it's the last round.
Okay.
So maybe we'll talk to him when he's got his trophy.
And I think, honestly, what we should do is get all the Skidmores, all of them. At that point, I'd like to also thank Ashley Patterson for giving us some great coverage to watch the finals.
Yep, that was good.
Me and you both watched that, didn't we?
Yep, it was good.
But yeah, congratulations, Johnny Skidmore. Already wrapped the 8 nationals up. Hopefully everyone has a safe travel to Southport. Is there anything else? Or is that done?
That's done. You go and get your sleep to dominate your home event.
I've done.
Do what I couldn't do.
I had a choice between prep or going to Tesco's. I went to Tesco's. Okay, that's what I've done.
You make it sound as if we're surprised by your.
That's all right. Just check your car at your Newman and say set it up.
Yeah, I hope he chucks it back and tells it off. In German as well.
Yeah, I think I can swear in German, but it's probably not a good idea. Tyler's sorting me 4-wheel drive out. Hopefully the Lidls will get there nice and early tomorrow, which will be Friday, and then we can maybe do a bit of prep on my 2-wheel drive tomorrow while I'm.
Do you know what? Bits. I obviously don't wish this at all, but I hope they don't come just so you get shafted for not having a 4-drive because you can't do your own prep.
Yeah, that'd be all right. I just enjoy the day, Joe. I can do that. Just enjoy the day. I just enjoy the day that you're not there. That's probably the best part of the day.
Oh.
You know what I mean? That's why UK RC 110th is growing this year, because go Joey Cockle.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Exactly.
That's proof. I'm not being funny, Joey. By the time you get back, I might be good.
Is he serious, or was that like a joke?
Wait, it's April Fool's is long gone.
We do have to explain to someone. I love all our American listeners. Thanks very much for listening to the gospel. But as Joey said, we do love each other, and we can prove that because that's where we're meanest to each other. I'd, of course, like to remind people to like and share this podcast. I'd like people to remind them to like and share all the podcasts. There are many great podcasts to listen to. I've really enjoyed catching up on some old episodes of the O Canada RC podcast. My friend Jeff Lemoyne does all kinds of RC, bit of racing, bit of crawling, all those things. So that's a really good episode to catch up with. I'd like to thank #Schumacher Family for all the things that all of the people do for me. My local friends and supporters and the Schumacher HQ. I'm sure, over the next few weeks, with some lawyers involved, we'll be able to hash out some sort of new contract for me. I'd like to thank TQ Models for supplying everything else that Schumacher don't supply me with. I'll be looking forward to catch up with the TQ Model boys at the RHR Grand Prix that's filled in. I'd like to thank Vic's Paint and Penguin Custom Body Shells, because my Penguin Custom Body Shells are on the way to Vic's Paint, and they will be getting done for my 2- and 4-wheel drive. Composite kit for the best hats. Clinic RC. Have I got any other sponsors? I don't think so. Probably Rude Bits Foams, but Muzzle Shout. Is that us all done now, boys, then?
Yeah.
Thanks very much, guys. And I'll see you, Miklos, tomorrow. Bye now.
Or Miklos. Bye bye.
Yeah, poor Miklos.